Hello, welcome back to Dad Puzzles. Uh, Today we're so lucky to have a good friend of mine, Dr. Jimmy Henry. He's a physician who transitioned into naturopath and wellness for fellow physicians. So he's a wellness coach for fellow physicians, and I'm so happy to have him today. So welcome, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on your platform here. It was great to connect
Yes,
with
sir.
you. And again, my name is Dr. Jimmy Henry. I'm a fellowship trained physical medicine doctor
Yes,
who
sir.
transitioned to becoming a naturopathic doctor. And
Awesome.
I'm also a physician wellness coach. So I'm just very passionate about helping my colleagues improve their health and wellness,
Yes, sir.
not just physically, but also mentally. We know that physicians suffer quite a bit, and that goes unspoken oftentimes,
Right.
especially men. And I
Right.
really want to make myself available to them in this space.
That's fantastic. And
Yeah.
you also being a dad, I think this is a perfect place to be. So we are so happy to have you on, sir.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm a single dad of four beautiful children, and they definitely keep me busy. So yes, great to
Fantastic.
be on.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, sir. So can you share a little bit how did how's your experience both in traditional medicine and naturopath have shaped your perspective in health and wellness?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we learn in medical school, right? And a lot of it is good,
Right.
but not all of it is actually correct.
Hmm.
And traditional medicine really focuses on signs and symptoms, which leads to a diagnosis, right?
Right.
You make the correct diagnosis, you get the correct treatment.
Right.
Whereas naturopathic medicine really kind of is opposite of that because we look at the whole person, not just their signs and symptoms.
Right.
And taking this holistic approach really allows you to look at the mind, the body, and the spirit, which really leads to better results, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because we're focusing more on preventing
Hmm.
than intervening. I
Right.
spent years in private practice as an interventional physiatrist, so
Hmm.
I would treat with medications, procedures,
Right.
surgeries
Hmm.
when people reached that point they couldn't tolerate their pain any longer.
Hmm.
But as a naturopath, you really get to the root of the issue where you can figure out, okay, what's causing the inflammation beforehand and
Hmm.
try to prevent it that way.
I see. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, as a father and healthcare professional, so how do you incorporate those healthcare like those lessons into your parenting lifestyle? I know that's a little
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, first of all, my kids see
right,
what I do. So,
right,
they see me work with, they've come to the office with me when I had, my sickest patient. So they've seen some of that
right.
and what kind of lifestyles may or may not contribute to that outcome.
Hmm.
But as a naturopath, they've also seen me preach lifestyle changes to my current clients.
Okay.
And in both settings, one thing that benefits, I think most physicians have to be good listeners
Hmm.
with good bedside manner. I
Right.
think the way you treat people matters, and my children see the way that I treat people.
Hmm.
There's a saying that Teddy Roosevelt said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you actually care. That goes with patience. You could spit off all the information you want to, but if they don't connect with you on a personal level,
Right.
they may not take your recommendations to heart
Right.
even. And that same kind of approach for me helps in parenting because listening to your kids is important too, right? They want
Right.
to know that you care,
Right.
not just you can solve their problem, but that you
Right.
actually care about their problem.
Right.
So I think that even my kids have made me a better listener because I don't have to always come with the solution to their problem as much as dad wants to fix things.
Right.
They oftentimes, and I have three little girls too. So dad, they just want dad to listen oftentimes, so just being available to listen matters.
And they will catch you when you don't listen. You're
Yeah,
not.
yeah, I know.
Right.
My oldest, she's a teenager now, so
Right.
and we have these very engaging conversations. But
Absolutely.
a lot of it is, dad just listen,
Right. Hmm.
and another way that being in medicine has kind of helped parenting is that you remember when your kids were little and you would try to avoid giving them juice, for as long as possible. You remember that, because juice contains sugar,
Mm-hmm.
apple juice, orange juice, whatever. And when the kids would get their hands on sugar, they'd be frantic, they'd run around, then they'd crash, then they'd wake up and crave some more sugar,
Right.
And, those things we kind of know, but helping kids as they age to avoid sugar because it is an addictive
Mm-hmm.
uh, drug,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I parent, I don't really allow sugar beyond a certain amount. I don't
Mm-hmm.
send juice boxes to them when I pack their lunch. So kind of undoing those things that they've learned
Mm-hmm.
can be difficult, right? Like
Right.
at school, oftentimes they'll get rewarded with sweets
Right.
for their performance, or
Right.
they'll have Halloween, Easter, all these holidays that really promote sugar, sugar, sugar.
Right.
And then as a parent who's also a doctor, you're like, okay, hold on, let's
Mm-hmm.
put a limit uh,
Right.
on these things. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to practice that with my kids. Also, being mindful
Mm-hmm.
of what they're eating as they're eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, people can be distracted while they eat,
Right.
which causes them to actually overeat and overconsume. So,
Mm-hmm.
like with my kids, one rule I have is no devices at the dinner table,
Absolutely.
because once you're locked in that device, you're really not paying attention to what you're consuming. So you really need
Right.
to listen to your body. Am I hungry? How hungry am I? Am I full?
Right.
So those cues really get missed the more we engage with those devices.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think this is
Yeah.
a is a big struggle for a lot of parents.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I
Absolutely.
mean, technology is just taking over. So
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
yeah,
And so what led you into the transition into naturopath?
yeah. I've always had an interest in naturopathic medicine. I just didn't really see a way to integrate it with what I was doing because
Mm-hmm.
we learn one way of doing things in medicine, and
Mm-hmm.
once you start practicing, you're just in go mode, right?
Right.
Um, but in 2020, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, I had to pivot, right? So we had the pandemic, we had, the George Floyd issue. There was just, social injustice and just racial reckoning
Mm-hmm.
happening. I was going through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So I had personal issues, I had some
Right.
professional issues, and it was really just a struggle to manage
All that.
all of it.
Right.
So in that pivot
Mm-hmm.
led me to naturopathic medicine and then to coaching. And looking back, I realize now that that was kind of God's way of moving me into a different way to helping people,
Right.
and maybe a more effective way to helping people, to be honest with you,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and also a way that I could actually be more available to my children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a win-win, but at the time it didn't really feel like that. I really
Right.
felt a lot of stress and pressure,
Mm-hmm.
but you can always find a gift in these obstacles that you deal with, right?
Right. Right.
Everything, there's always a lesson to learn, and once you see the good, it really changes your perspective
Right.
on life from that point.
Oh, that's good. And like you say that it also made you like more available for your kids and stuff, correct? More, more.
Correct, correct.
Hmm.
And that's what really matters the most, because even practicing traditional medicine,
Hmm.
you really are just on the go. You're sacrificing a lot, and even
Right.
when you're home with your kids,
You
you may
got
not be present because
right.
you're worrying about the last patient you saw, or you may
Paperwork.
be on call, the pager's going off,
Right.
and when the kids go to bed, you're just finishing up your notes. So there's always something to be doing, and it's really allowed me. I always put my kids first, but pivoting has really allowed me to see that traditional medicine for me wasn't the best way for me to be available to my kids long term.
Right.
And I think that's, and it's not just doctors, it's a lot of dads across other professions as well, trying to realize, okay, how do I balance being a dad and a provider?
Right.
And the trick is that you have to remember that providing and protecting is not just financial. It's just not in the job and the money, right?
Right.
Your children want you to protect their well-being, their
Right.
spirit. They want you to provide emotionally and spiritually,
Right.
not just financially. And I
Absolutely.
think that's where a lot of men kind of get caught up just thinking that, okay, as long as I bring home the bacon,
Right.
I'm good.
No.
I tell you, that's not it. That's
Right.
not it.
Right. Yes,
Right.
sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, can you elaborate? Like elaborate a little bit about the transition that happened in 2016? I think this was something that was important for you.
Yeah, yeah. So wellness is important to me, and one
Right.
reason why I'm so passionate about it because I began my own wellness journey
Right.
back in 2016. Right. My dear cousin, Emmanuel, she's only 34 years old. She passed. She passed from breast cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and she had no health problems. No risk factors, no family history,
Mm-hmm.
but she was diagnosed, and within a few years, she lost her battle with it. And that was eye-opening for me because as her cousin, and she's more like a sister to me,
Right.
but she really expected me as a doctor to be able to help her. And I was so heartbroken that traditional medicine couldn't offer her anything to alleviate her pain or rid her of the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really an experience, but it showed me something. It showed me that there are shortcomings of traditional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And one revelation that I had is that given her history or lack thereof of risk factors,
Mm-hmm.
that perhaps sickness and illness is more environmental than it is hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, she had no family history.
Right.
And so it got me thinking, which is what kind of naturopathic medicine also alludes to, is that things that we are exposed to in our environment can be toxic to our body, first of all. And then two, the lifestyle choices that we make affect our health more so than the genetic makeup that we have that we inherited from our parents, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of people feel like, okay, well, especially in our community, unfortunately, we
Mm-hmm.
feel like, okay, well, my grandpa had this, my dad had this, so I'm going to have it. So it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to get it anyway.
Right.
And that's not true
It's not correct.
um,
Absolutely.
at all, right? Our body has genes
Mm-hmm.
that we can turn off and on
Mm-hmm.
depending on how we live our life, right?
Right.
So even if we have a condition or an illness, through our choices, we may be able to decrease it or reverse it. And I think that's really um, a message I want to just hammer home to a lot of men is you don't have to accept just being average or mediocre health wise.
Right.
You know, a lot of men really are focused on generational wealth
Mm-hmm.
so much that they ignore their generational health. And generational health is more valuable because the legacy that you leave for yourself and for your children will outlast the amount of money that you make in your lifetime. All right.
Absolutely.
So
Awesome, awesome. So this is a very good advice to dads. To really pay attention about their health, and not accepting the family history. Oh yeah, my dad had diabetes, and then I'm gonna have it. No, no, no. If you
yeah,
eat
yeah.
sugar, you exercise, you do all these great things, absolutely, you can not be, one of the victims as well, man.
Yeah, yeah. Now, of course, some things are genetic, right? But the
Right,
vast majority of things that we suffer
right,
are preventable
right.
lifestyle choices. It
Big
could
time.
be from smoking, drinking, diet,
Yep,
sedentary lifestyle. All these
yep.
choices we make
Absolutely.
will affect us, you
Yes,
know?
sir.
Yeah.
Man, so what is the like you mentioned the challenge of the work-life balance, especially being a busy doctor and business owner. So how do you navigate these responsibilities?
So one way, it's really the most important way is to have a mindset, right? That
Hmm.
you must prioritize your
Hmm.
family
Right,
and your well-being, right?
right,
And like I said, men sometimes prioritize their work over their families, consciously or subconsciously.
right.
But our family is it's our responsibility, right? And they're
Right.
requiring us to protect and provide
Hmm.
in different ways, not just financially.
Right.
One way I think that dads sometimes misstep is that when we're working a job and we keep picking up overtime or we pick up an extra job. We work in 2 or 3 jobs, right?
Right.
And we're just grinding, grinding, grinding. Well, that grind is only going to grind you into your grave sooner, and your family would rather you be present, right,
Right.
than be unavailable. That's first. Second of all, um, men who are dads, and let's say you go through divorce like I did. It's unfortunate, but things happen, right?
Right.
And but if you're a dad who's always providing financially and you're never present, you know, it could be alleged that you were an unpresent parent, right? Even though you provided all the money, you weren't present physically or emotionally for your children.
Right.
And that may be a lose-lose for you because you'll be paying out the child support without getting the time, and kids need both parents present, right?
Right.
And I think that we need to really emphasize not just the quantity of time, but the quality of time spent with your children,
Right.
on their long-term health and well-being as well.
I see. I see. And also, like you had mentioned about burnout, like among your messages. So how can you share that with dads? How has it been affecting you, or maybe advising to dads how can we can deal with it from professional standpoint and also just personally as dads?
Yeah, burnout is a really big issue. It's a big topic across a lot of professions, especially medicine, with the pandemic and just the amount of work we've had to put in during that time. But
Right.
what like what does burnout look like? The first steps really is to really have an awareness of what that is.
Hmm.
I created this concept. I call it toxic doc syndrome,
Hmm.
kind of like toxic shock syndrome, but
Right.
toxic doc syndrome. Essentially, the things we're exposed to in our environment,
Hmm.
job, relationships, they can create stress, which can be toxic to us.
Right.
And then we internalize that stress, which then can create toxic behaviors. It can cause us to pick up smoking or go back to drinking
Right.
or overeating.
Right.
It can cause us to pick up weight, and physical weight is not just physical, it's also emotional.
Right.
And that weight is toxic to us as well. Our fat cells store toxins that affect our body.
Right.
So the first thing is to have an awareness of what burnout is, what the signs are physically and mentally. If you start having these negative emotions, you start feeling, sinister, sarcastic, jaded, bitter, those things may be a sign of burnout, right?
Right.
Once you're aware of it,
Hmm.
then you need to acknowledge and accept it, right? And that really is pivotal to understand, okay, I'm dealing with burnout, right?
Right. Right.
And to say, I'm dealing with it. I think for me, especially when I first acknowledged I had it, I actually had burnout for several years before I actually acknowledged it, so I was noticing different things about my body, but I would ignore it or I would avoid it. And that didn't make it go away, right? It just
Right.
kept
Get away.
building and building up, right?
Right.
So once you're aware, then you acknowledge it. Now you can actually address it and take action. And what does that look like? Seeking help, whether it's a doctor, a coach, a therapist. Um, you know, self-care is big. Setting
Right.
boundaries is important for dads.
Right.
You can't really say yes to every opportunity just because it's going to increase your bag, right? You have to be able to set some boundaries and say, I've got to take care of myself and my family first
Right.
from a health and wellness standpoint
Right.
before I can benefit them in any other way.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so how do you, I think you had mentioned something about, like, the capitalism in healthcare.
Yeah.
How does that
Yeah.
play with family and such?
Yeah. So we talked about it. So capitalism is, I mean, it's America, right?
Right.
And, you know, practicing in traditional medicine for almost 15 years, over time I became to realize that capitalism had kind of crept its way into healthcare in such a way that it had disturbed the sacred patient-physician relationship. I was a sought-after industry speaker. I've spoken for pharma, biotech, medical devices, etc. And there are certain dynamics in their relationship where while you're prioritizing the patient, other agencies are prioritizing their bottom line, right? And, the physician's first responsibility is to serve and protect the patient.
Right.
But the system in general is to serve and protect the system, not the physician or the patient, right?
Right.
And that was another just revelation that I had back in 2020 was that, something's got to be different in what we're doing. And now you see there's a shift going on in healthcare where many doctors are exiting. They may not stop practicing altogether, but they are crafting a way where it suits their value system better than working within the system. So you'll see things like concierge medicine popping up, direct primary care popping up,
Right.
where they're removing themselves from the systems that don't prioritize their wellness or their patient's wellness, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So this is this is also like in terms of affecting the kids and such. Do we see that? I think just the community in general, as you mentioned, like you might try to do things for them, but then the system is pushing you to do other things because of the bottom line. So I see what you're saying, definitely.
Yeah, they talk about, the healthcare system being broken. And
Right.
I challenge that because from our standpoint, it may be broken because we're not benefiting from it. But the system is working the way it's supposed to work for the system, right? It's actually efficiently producing a profit for the system. If it were broken from that standpoint, they would have fixed it, right?
Right.
So the system, and I bring it up because oftentimes patients and physicians are expecting the system to fix it. And we can't really wait for anyone to come and save us, right? We've got to take ownership, autonomy, agency over our own destiny. Right? So that's, patients seeking someone that aligns with their values, doctors crafting a practice that suits their values.
Right.
I really see that's where things are moving forward.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and I think one of the challenges for that is it becomes too expensive for them because they don't have the support of the system. And I know it's a challenge, but hopefully things will work
No,
out well in the
you're
end.
right. You're right. And there's no mistake. I ran a prior practice. I understand, right? The way that it's set up is you have to see so many people
Right.
to afford the staff needed
Absolutely.
to accommodate them well. Otherwise, you'll be practicing bad medicine.
Right.
And that in of itself is a strain. The system has created where that for the same service you provide in private practice, they're allowed to charge more, get reimbursed more, and that allows them to do different things that you just can't do being a kind of small mom and pop shop
Absolutely.
operating within the same system. It's like
Mm.
I said, there are doctors who are no longer taking any insurance really because that really puts the ceiling on the level of service you can provide for their patients. There's a day
Mhm.
where doctors would know the patient, their
Mhm.
kids, their whole family.
Absolutely.
It would be a very intimate relationship. And now, because of how things are set up, especially with technology and EMR, actually has created this wall
Right.
where now the doctor's head is in the computer trying to just uh, check boxes, unfortunately for the insurance company to receive their payment, and that's not what the relationship should be like.
I see. I see. Thank you, sir, for that explanation. And
Yeah,
like I hope, I think one of the solutions I will think is to make the patients understand what's going on so that they can work with you, in this struggle because initially it's going to be a struggle for them, with the high pay so that we can all do better. So I wish you the best on that, boss. And
yeah,
also,
yeah.
what do you think about let's say I know that you like to prevent you know being sick. So what are the things that you do to prevent those risk factors of getting sick and such, for yourself and the family as a whole?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do to prevent.
Hmm.
Just take a holistic approach to your wellness.
Right.
Some simple things that I incorporate to my
Right.
daily practice. I
Absolutely.
call it PB&J,
Okay.
prayer,
Hmm.
Bible, and journaling. And I think having
There
a
you go.
spiritual foundation
Hmm.
and practicing that every day
Right.
keeps you grounded and rooted in something higher than yourself. And that really makes your why
Hmm.
uh, greater than
Yes.
just being aesthetically, fit or what have you, because those things are really temporary. So,
Right.
like I said, PB&J. And though I may not journal every day, I write every day. So whether
Right.
it's blog, book, post, whatever it's a
Right.
way to express
Right.
what you're feeling inside. So those are some things that I incorporate. There's many more. We'd probably get into them a little bit later.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
this is nice. And I think, I still have a project in mind. I want to speak with one of the neurologists, and maybe I will work with you at some point as well, because I want us to. I noticed there's a big impact on spiritual. Like in terms of alleviating all these dramas of life and just making people successful. For instance, if the goal is bigger, like you mentioned, then you have a bigger why, so you're more focused. You're not disturbed by many.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah. No, it is. In my coaching practice, I have three principles. One is that medicine is a ministry,
Hmm.
and medicine really should be about healing the whole person,
Right,
not just their symptoms,
right.
and from the inside and out.
Hmm.
Two is that your body is a temple.
Right.
Literally, your body is
Sacred, right?
holy, sacred ground, and we should
Right,
really value it as such.
right.
And three, wellness is your worship. The way that you take care of yourself actually speaks a lot
Hmm.
about you,
Right.
um, and your spiritual integrity.
I
So those
see.
are three things that I use in my coaching as well.
I see. I see. So thank you, and also, thank you for sharing about your cousin, and the shortcomings of the conventional medicine. So what are the steps that you think fathers can do to address those gaps with their families?
Wow. Well, dads are really charged to lead.
Right.
Part of being a dad is a leader,
Right.
and you really have to lead by example. Do as I say, not as I do doesn't really work so much. So you have to
Right.
be the example that you want your
Right.
family to actually follow.
Absolutely.
I think we have to realize that um, we're born healthy.
Hmm.
Good health is our right. We have a right to health and wellness.
Hmm.
And we shouldn't, like I said before, just accept the status quo of being sick, being dependent on medications. So, what
Right.
steps can dads take? Be the example, lead your family as far as the way you eat, the way you take care of your body, um, exercise. All these things can help your family see how you're prioritizing your health. When my kids see me go to the gym, you know, that impacts them. Now want to go to the gym.
Hmm.
So those things really matter. It may seem little or minute, but it has a really big effect when your kids see you live your life a certain way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And so let's, because I think I'm a victim right now. I can admit, they see you exercise and everything else, spending time with them. But two things that one of them that they're complaining about is me being busy. Like a little bit, like I spend time, but sometimes they notice that most of the time you're more occupied because you're still in the hump. You don't have
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
perform as much. And then the other thing for me personally, just not about them, is the rest thing. Like I need to work on my resting. Like the whole sleep and everything else. I know we don't have to
Yeah.
sleep 8 hours and such, but that's something that I'm
No.
working on.
Yeah, no, that's very good, and those are important because, especially rest,
Hmm.
we're made to rest. If we don't get enough rest, our body will just shut down on us,
Right,
right?
right,
And rest is really a time for our bodies to recover. You
absolutely.
know, uh, Most athletes and they know, yes, you go hard, but you
Right,
have to rest. That's when your cells rebuild, your muscles rebuild. That's
right,
when you get the hypertrophy is through the rest. When we
absolutely.
sleep at night, we
Hmm.
secrete growth hormone
Right,
to heal, right? So we need
right.
those. We need the rest,
Absolutely.
and I just want to emphasize that us
Hmm.
dads need to prioritize our rest. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
So like your passion is mostly to like to to make sure that there's a wellness, to us in the community and the fellow dads.
Yeah.
So can you share some starting points for dads that that they might they're trying to start their wellness journey. Like what
Right,
would be good?
right, right. So for men especially, I like to, I like to mention the fact that it's kind of an unfortunate stat, but
Hmm.
men have a shorter life expectancy than
Right.
women. Okay. And black men have even a shorter life expectancy than other races. And that's important to point that out because, why is that? It doesn't mean that men are less fit or black men are less fit
Right.
to live longer. It's stress mainly. And then life choices.
Right.
And oftentimes men are apprehensive of improving their health and wellness for two things I find. One is pride.
Okay.
Men can be overly prideful. Think about sitcoms where the dad's driving around
Hmm.
and he's lost, he doesn't know where he's going, but he won't stop and ask for direction because his pride has him, he's going to figure it out.
Right.
So a lot of men sometimes are trying to figure it out but going the wrong way. And we are too prideful to just stop and ask for help. That's where a doctor, a coach can help you save time and save mileage on your life, right?
Right.
Two is fear. A lot of men, as much as we hate to admit it, we're fearful, okay? We're fearful about other people's opinions of us. We're fearful that how we may appear to them, are we weak because we ask for help?
Hmm.
Are we weak because we're having to be sick? Um, do we fear a report, a bad diagnosis? So
Hmm.
instead of hearing a potential bad diagnosis,
Right.
we're like, you know what, I just won't go. So
Right.
I don't have to hear it. So between pride and fear really lands men in a pretty bad spot. So I just want to encourage them that they don't have to succumb to the pride or the fear, right? If you are committed to walking this wellness journey, especially out of responsibility and obligation to your family, you know, then seek the help.
Right.
There's really nothing to fear.
Right.
Avoiding it is not going to make it go away. It's just going to multiply on you, right? So the way to get to the promised land is to go through the obstacle to actually
Right.
get there, right? So,
Absolutely. And I
yeah,
think you pointed out something very important, how sometimes we can just worry about ourselves, but then if you have a picture of your favorite, like your daughter or your son,
yeah,
you're like, "Oh, wait a
yeah.
second. For their sake, I better do this."
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
If you ask any man in his last days, right,
Hmm.
on his deathbed, if
Right.
or just think about your older, wiser self,
Right.
what would you tell your younger self that you should prioritize for the
Hmm.
remainder part of your life?
Oh man.
I can almost guarantee you it's going to be health and family, at least two of the top three.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So prioritizing your health so you can buy yourself more time
Right.
and being as available as you can for your family. So
Right.
those things are important. They're crucial for being the great dads that we all are.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so from your expertise in medicine and coaching, so what actionable advice would you give to dads that are to so that they can promote like like a holistic lifestyle at home? For instance, I noticed you said about you don't pack any sugary stuff to school,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
awesome. So what other things do you advise dads to apply in their family?
Yeah, so there's different steps you could take.
Mhm.
Even if you go to my website, I have a list of 10 ways to wellness in 10 days. Just 10
Right.
things you could do right now
Right.
to seek more wellness in 10 days. And
Awesome.
we touched on rest earlier.
Right.
One thing I'll mention is sunlight.
Hmm.
People underestimate the impact that sunlight has on us, right?
Right.
Vitamin D we know is important for strong bones,
Hmm.
but it's also useful for immunity. It
Right.
helps with weight loss.
Hmm.
It helps with your mood.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Yeah. When I first moved to where I'm at now, I
Hmm.
didn't realize that our winters were very gray and how that affect my mood was really off. And then I finally connected the dots. Like I'm not getting enough vitamin D. So vitamin D is very important for various reasons.
Right.
And then another kind of life hack is being grounded. Okay.
Hmm.
grounding is a technique where you have your feet touch the soil
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Right.
And why is that important? Our bodies are actually electrical circuits.
Mm-hmm.
We do in medicine we do EMGs,
Mm-hmm.
EKGs, EEGs. There's electrical currents running through our bodies all the time.
Right.
And when we're not grounded, we're not balanced. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have to ground ourselves to the earth every day. And that helps eliminate some of the uh, toxic kind of energy that we are absorbing between
Mm-hmm.
technology. We have our device on us all the time. There's Wi-Fi everywhere. There's all these different um, transmissions we're encountering that we're not sure how that's affecting us. So being grounded every day helps as well.
I see. Fantastic. And I'm glad that you touch upon the vitamin D because actually I was involved in we were doing a study in University of Chicago. We did not finish the study because of loss of funding, but we were looking at vitamin D, how it impacts like the relationship of vitamin D and the colon cancer, and
Mm.
the majority actually of folks that are affected were is us,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
African Americans. So I think this is something that we can probably remind folks, to kind of be mindful of and see, and like a naturopathic doctor like yourself, so you can run those data and see where
Hmm.
how they're doing.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All those things are important, and sometimes we're looking for like a magic pill or
Right,
a secret bullet. There's a lot of it before you go to the extreme. Start
right,
with the basic, right? There's
right,
basic things we need to do
right.
consistently, and so if you're not even doing the basic things, it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense to reach beyond that, right? So focus
Right,
on what you can control. I think sometimes we are striving to hit like a grand slam every day when really if we just bunted and did base hits every
right.
day,
Hmm.
we'd be farther along, right?
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's also you know um, the question that was posed by one of the prior guests, and I'd like to share with you because you're a dad, and she was saying that how can you, as a dad, maybe how can the ladies as wives, they can, what can they do to make us, to be successful as a dad? Because I think a lot of times we just kind of run around, do the monotony and everything else, but
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good question. I see, marriage is a real partnership. So
Mhm.
you're a team.
Right,
And people want it to be 50-50, but
mhm,
it's not always, right?
right,
Sometimes people have to carry a little bit more weight for a period of time.
right,
So really it's having each other's back and
right,
and covering. So you support her and she supports you. That's first of all.
right.
Two, I think that in raising the children and the dad kind of leading the way,
Hmm.
everyone being in alignment,
Right.
right? And even if you're not in alignment,
Hmm.
discuss it offline, right? Not in the presence of the children, right? So,
Absolutely.
and I think that's an important thing. So you're always a team. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
when I talk to men, this is what I tell them. You know, the Bible says in marriage two become one, right?
Hmm.
So if you treat your spouse the way that you would treat yourself,
Right.
right, things would be a lot different. I think oftentimes we treat our spouse as them. It's us and them,
Right.
but no, but it's us and us. You're like this.
Right.
So I think whatever decision you make or don't make, it should be in that context
Hmm.
that we are both the same person. We are one unit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boss, that's awesome. So from what we
Yeah.
have spoken today, we have spoken a lot.
Yeah.
What message, what's the takeaway message to dads, my friend?
And this has been great. We've covered a lot. One thing I just want to just emphasize is that being healthy as a dad
Hmm.
is not a choice. It's a responsibility. Okay. It's an obligation for dads to protect and provide in many different ways. But in order to do that, they have to take care of themselves first. That's first of all.
Right.
And then two, being well is really a lifestyle change. It's not a fad diet. It's not a quick fix, right? This is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
And in doing that, don't get discouraged if you don't reach a certain goal by a certain time, because this is for life. Right?
Right.
Your commitment to yourself to be well, it's for life. So there's really no time parameter on it. You should be getting, 1% better each and every day.
Right.
And in that process, give yourself some grace and be patient. So
That's fantastic. Thank you so
yeah,
much, boss. I truly appreciate that. I think, folks will definitely benefit from what we have, just spoken about, and this is awesome. And what do what question do you have for the next guest as a dad? Maybe what would you want them to maybe respond to or maybe shine light on?
that's a good question. Probably really, how do they balance for themselves the responsibilities as father and provider? What does that look like for them?
I see.
I know sometimes dads want to have their children do exactly what they do in
Right.
life,
Hmm.
or I never really pushed medicine
Hmm.
on my kids,
Right.
but they see the way that I live,
Hmm.
and how I make time for both, but ties them.
I
So
see.
just ways that they have incorporated in their life to make sure they're prioritizing their kids while showing them the ins and outs of what they do career wise.
I see. Fantastic. That's a great
Yeah.
question. Thank you so much, boss, for doing this.
Yeah.
So how can folks find you, boss? Because I think you mentioned great information that they can really find from your website as well, and take care of those 10 things. I want to,
Yeah. They can find me at Doctor spelled out DOCTOR Wellfit WELLFIT.com.
awesome. And
That's my
now,
website. That's
mhm,
all my handles on social media.
okay,
Doctor Wellfit. So
awesome.
I appreciate your time, boss.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'll definitely
Yeah.
share that in like link, like down below, and as well, if they want to get more information on fatherhood, go right back to dadpuzzles.com. There's more information with Dr. Jimmy Hendry and so many other great folks that are sharing their wisdom about fatherhood. So thanks so much for listening to Dad Puzzles today. Thank you.